Okay. Okay, this is about tech, tech mind control, right? Technical mind control of our minds, the human mind. I'll start by saying for most of my life, I was more mind controlled and less aware than just about any person on the planet because all human beings really are is awareness. And this is what has been said by other people that have woke up, shall we say. And I believe this to be true. Human beings at their very best are aware of everything or should be aware of everything. And that might sound a bit hard to believe, but that's what their natural state is. And I have now woken up to quite a few things myself because I'm saying this. I was more asleep and less aware than most human beings. I was not interested in anything. I did not care for what was going on. I never turned the news on, and that's actually a good thing anyway because most of the news is not of any benefit to the human mind. But I did not take an interest in things around me much. I pretty much was asleep, lived in my own world, was happy with it, and thought that anything that went wrong was basically of um, my own fault, shall we say, because I didn't acknowledge that that although humans are awareness, that's right, we should be controlling more of what goes on around us, but we actually control nothing because it is a mind controlled earth. And the way that this world operates is taking humans' awareness away from them and then replacing that with what is going on around, if you can follow what I'm saying. So we are all at a very low awareness of what the world really is or what is really going on around us. We don't notice things like we should. Humans are meant to notice every little thing and then piece it together and see it for what it really is. Whereas at the present time, we only see it from what we're told it is. This is the tech control of the mind because if you get your information only from, say, TV, computers, mobile phones, all this sort of stuff, that is your view of the world, then that is your information source. So that becomes your awareness. Whereas your real awareness to where you would see things as they truly are, instead of what is presented to you, that's taken from you by the tech because you're replacing that screen with looking at the actual world. In other words, looking at the real sky is different to looking at a sky on a screen. You would say, well, is there any difference? Well, I say, yes, there's a big difference because there's a lot to see in the real and nothing to see in the fake technical thing. That is only that's like a movie. It's made up. It's false. You see, everything that is on the screen, particularly if it's presented as being real. If it's a movie, I would say these days there's more truth in it, a lot of truth, because we live in a reverse world. Everything that you think is real is not real, and everything that you think is real is not real. So therefore, if you're watching a movie and you say that's a fantasy movie, chances are that has a lot of truth in it. And also movies are usually about, particularly some movies are usually probably 50 years ahead of time, maybe 100 years. That's what I think. In other words, you see things in a movie that will be the future. So take note. They're not fantasy, but what you see on your screen is presented as truth, that is fantasy. Okay, that sounds ridiculous. That's what awareness does, because awareness makes you see, as a human being, the truth, what is real, whereas technology takes that from you, you know. And anyway, what I was saying and trying to get to that point is that that's right. I was less aware than most human beings. I was very much in my own world, did not, right at the lowest level. Most human beings were more aware than me. So if I can become aware of things that I was not aware of, I do not understand why most human beings now seem to be less aware. And this is why I say that is because technology is taking that awareness from human beings. And I know that for a fact myself, because if I'm one of the more aware ones now, when I was one of the least, and and other people that were more aware are now less aware, this tells me something. And also it means that they are really incorporating the tech into their mind. The smarter people that should be more aware, because I'm not one of those, I was one of the less aware, they are incorporating so much tech into their mind that they should be really the clever ones and should be aware of everything very much clear. They're not. They're in a muddle. They're actually less aware than the less intelligent people, you could say, almost. So this is the weird world that we now live in, and and I think this is happening even in science. Like, it's no good having a brilliant mind, a top scientist, if he also is not aware, if he's operating under information that is not full truth. And this, I think, is also what happens. And even scientists can only operate with what they think is true, because they are not aware either. They're brilliant minds, but it's no good having a brilliant mind if you can't have a basis of truth to start with, awareness, full awareness of what really is going on. And, in other words, if you go to university and you're told these are certain scientific rules, certain scientific facts, and they aren't really facts at all, they're actually are not truth, then where can you possibly take that science? You can only take it a very limited way, because you don't know what real science is. So anyway, this is what I'm trying to say. So human beings in their natural state, if left away from technology and allowed to develop naturally with their own mind, they will see the truth. They will be great scientists, because they will know what is science. And then they will know very basic thing, as I've said before in the videos. Human thought creates reality. We are all connected. And we are spiritual beings. By spiritual beings, I mean that we are awareness. We should know what is the real truth and what is the right way for humans to behave towards other human beings, because we're all connected. You shouldn't kill something that is connected to you, should you? And yet we've done that since the beginning. This is because our world is controlled and manipulated by another force. So even when you're aware, you are now not going to be able to bring your mind as far as what you should, because there will be the control system, the tech control system, that will bring you down. This is how the world is now. So it is very difficult for everyone to realise what's going on, and to realise that they are spiritual beings, are all connected, and that their very thought can create reality. But if they don't know that, and if they're not operating in the right mindset, they're subconsciously creating a bad reality, which is why we have this mixed up reverse world that we live in, which suits the control system, which operates that way to keep humans in a more controlled state, because that way it feeds their darker world, shall we say, because it's light and dark in this world. It's awareness versus ignorance. It's freedom versus control, in a way. And humans are meant to be free and meant to be at a high spiritual level, where they know everything and where they're aware, and where they can control reality, where they can create the reality they want and need. This is not happening, and has not been happening for a long, long time, because we do not realise that we are in a control darker system that does not want us to be aware and to progress to our full mental capacity. They want the system wants us to go into the technical, limited world. And this is what happened. And this also is happening by the environment, which is controlled by the control system. So that brings our body down. So therefore we think our body is not very good, and it doesn't, and it is becoming less because it is being invaded by mind parasites and physical parasites, which deplete and stop the human body from reaching its full awareness to where it knows that it can create reality and have full control over this earth. Human beings' thought creates reality. Your very thought, you don't have to create it with anything but your thought, can create a physical reality, anything you want, but you are all connected. So we are now disconnected by the internet and by technology. So therefore we are not as a whole capable of combining and creating the perfect world, shall we say. And instead, because we are led by the tech into conflict and animosity towards one another, and always fighting, always not agreeing, even if it was about making a better world, we would be disagreeing right this very minute. So that creates negativity and means that we're disconnected. So our negative thoughts then are creating a bad reality. Do you see what I'm saying? It's complicated, but it's also quite simple if you hold to those basic truths. In other words, if I can create a physical reality, but I'm upset and angry because the world is so or not so good, then, and I'm not aware that I can do that, then I'm angry and I'm going to be fighting with people and I'm going to be upset, then I am subconsciously creating a negative reality, the actual opposite to what I would want. You see what I'm saying? Because my thoughts, my feelings are actually creating reality, but I do not know it. I have not got control over it. And also I'm disconnected from other human beings. Don't forget, they're contributing to this reality too. This is a lot of people. And we're all disconnected. So I don't know what everyone else is thinking. They're probably as negative as me because they're probably angry and we're fighting amongst ourselves. So, you see, but the control system that rules the world, the entity system, it's run by tech. And I think everyone realizes that because the world is ruled by the internet now. We've let that control our planet. So that means that our natural capability for the awareness of these things has been brought right down. Instead, we get our whole perception from the screen, from the tech. But that is not telling us that we have any input and create the reality just by the thinking. That tells us the opposite, that we have to do everything in a mechanical way, in a technical way, because the planet itself, the ruling forces of it, the governing forces, the controlling forces, the power, shall we say, is all tech. We are not tech, we are natural. We are spiritual beings in a physical body here to experience this. Instead, all we're experiencing is technology. We have not developed our natural capacity, our mind, even the awareness to know that we can do so much more. Instead, we think the tech can do more. This is the deception. And this is how this planet is so controlled. And it's a tech-controlled, mind-controlled planet, and that's what it is. And the only, that's a choice too, because don't forget, we make that choice because we've allowed it into our domain, because we're innocent, because like myself, I was asleep. I was not aware of any of it. And you think, what's the harm on playing on the computer? What's the harm on having all these mobile devices and things? And notice how they deplete us financially too, because we're continually having to update because they put more and more mind control into it every time. And it's in the schools, it's everywhere. So if you're a baby and you're hooked up to a computer from the day you're born, how are you ever going to develop your natural capabilities? And if the planet itself is being artificially contaminated, which it is, and I think we half know that, but we don't realize to the extent, because we are not meant to be artificial in any way. It is alien, literally alien to our bodies and minds. It does not benefit us in any way. Even now, like I have trouble communicating because of the frequencies, because they are not frequencies that are compatible with the human mind or the human body. They're everywhere. You can't escape them. You're breathing in the artificial material, that controls the planet and controls everything. Human beings should be able to, if human beings were aware that their thought creates reality and that they're all connected and combined, and if they did combine with this knowledge and with this action, just mentally, don't even have to do anything, the physical force that operates in this world is the technical world, the technical control. The military, that type of thing, is technical. Human beings could get rid of all of that with their mind, but they don't know that, and they don't even need it, because anything they want they can do just with their mind. They don't need security because their mind creates. They can block out anything if they wanted to, if they combined mentally, knowing that and doing that. They don't need anything. That is the joke of this world. That is the trap. That is the mind trap that humans have been put into, and the lack of awareness that is deliberately made so that they never become aware of this. Because like I say, I lived it for all my life. I was less aware even of anything than anyone. Most human beings at the present time should be fully awake and aware of this. And they should be pulling down. They probably should be, I'm not going to say what they should be doing, but figure it out for yourself. If they're controlled by all of this and they don't need it, and it's actually limiting them and stopping them from going to their full path, their full potential as human beings. And that potential as human beings is infinitely greater than any technology you can imagine. That is the deception, that is the lie, that is the trick. And even I find it hard to believe, because that's what we've been conditioned to, that's what we're programmed to, that's what we're told, that's the world we live in, that's what we're now getting used to. I don't think this would have happened many years ago even, but I think we've now accepted it. And no one can help us or save us from this except ourselves, because if, like, just supposing, right, and it's not really a supposing, but I'm just going to put it as a hypothetical, because humans operate only in the logical and the hypothetical. It's only when you become aware you realise that everything is wrong, and therefore the impossible actually is possible, but you limit it because you don't realise how much potential humans really have, But at any rate, what I'm saying is that we have to help ourselves and realise this ourselves, because even if, supposing, and it's not really a supposing, but I'm going to put it that way, right? So supposing there were other beings that saw this thing happening, that human beings are suppressed, are mind controlled, and are not being allowed to reach their full potential because they're being controlled by the technological force, shall we say, that rules this planet. Even if you just want to look at it as other human beings that rule it and that have put the technology there, given it to us. That's, they spend an awful lot of money, if you think about it, to give it to us, and they don't want to spend it much elsewhere. So figure that one out. It's common sense to some extent, and we're very much in a logical, intellectual way of thinking these days. Intellect and logic actually is the opposite to the awareness, because when you become aware, you realize that a lot of the intellect and logic actually is not really the truth. That human beings, because they are actually aware and they can create reality with their thinking, then a lot of that logic and what you've been told really means nothing. It flies out the window because it's actually not the truth. It's not logic at all, really. It's only logic because you're under deception, because you believe false information, because you believe what you've been told since the day you were born. And you've never been told since the day you were born that human beings are spiritual beings and that they create reality with their thinking and that they're all connected naturally, not via the internet. That is the control system. The internet is the control system. Natural connection, mentally, is the natural internet, the real internet, the one where humans become vastly superior. The artificial, technical internet is where human beings become inferior. That is a control system. That is not any benefit to humans at all. You're just being fed information, but you yourself are not developing your mind. Even though we ourselves put the information into the computer, which is kind of a joke too. We're actually human beings create their own prison. Like we are in a prison of our own mind, and we create the prison because that's how it's set up. We've been tricked that way, you know. We're setting up our own prison. But anyway, what I was saying was that even if there were other beings, say, that saw this predicament that humans are in, not being allowed to reach their full potential, and that it's wiping out the human race, there will be no intervention because there is a free will thing. Even if you believe in God, he gave human beings free will, right? And human beings, free will, they accept all these things that take place on the planet. They accept the tech, they accept the mind control, but they don't know it is this way, but they're still accepting it. They're supposed to be aware enough to know that it's not right and good for them, but because they've allowed it to take over their thinking, they're almost like not aware enough to see that they are being taken over, you see. This is the sad thing, because this is what happened to me for years and years. You know, I didn't see anything at all, and I wasn't even a technical person. I was completely suppressed and mind controlled without technology. You know, so and I'm not going to say how I woke up because like I say, I was less aware and less intelligent than most people. But maybe in another video I will. But it was purely accidental, to be quite frank. You know, some people are always at least looking for the truth, so they have, and they're the ones that are awake at the moment, the ones that are really looking for the truth, and only using the technology to try and find a bit of truth, because even though this is a total mind control system, there's still some truth there. Not much, but you have to look hard for it, and that's the trick too, you know. And how to find the truth amongst so much rubbish, how to find a gem amongst a lot of rubbish is hard. So you do have to be, actually, you almost need some awareness for that. That's the funny thing. You almost have to start with a little bit of awareness. You have to start being a little bit skeptical, almost, I'd have to say, in today's way of looking at things, because if you just go there believing that you're just going to add to your already false lot of information and history and all that sort of stuff, or add more false information to false files, you know, that's not much good. Or even if you find some truth, if you're only going to add it to false information, that's no good either, because you won't think that the truth is the truth, because it won't fit with the false information. If you've got 90% false information and you find a little bit of truth, you're probably going to pass it over because it won't fit in with the 90% that's lies or false, you see. So this is where you do have to have that little bit of awareness, that bit of skepticism to say maybe even the information I already have isn't valid, or I haven't checked it out enough. I can't really prove it's true. It's just given to me. I accept what is given to me. Perhaps I need to think a little bit about it. See, this is where if you were a natural human being, you would automatically know that, because you would know what is correct to be a human being. So you'd sort of say, hey, why has humanity always went down the same path? Why does it never get anywhere? why they're always seeking for certain things, but it always eludes them. That's where you have to say, what is really, is there not something else taking place on this earth? Like, if so many genuine human beings truly want it to be better, why does it only get worse? And that is because human beings do not control the earth. It's the other way around. They are mind controlled. We are all mind controlled. I've been mind controlled all my life. And even now I still am. All human beings are infected by mind control parasites, you could say, that feed off us, that exploit us and direct us and control us. The only difference I would say is that some of us have got less parasites than others, you could almost say. That's really it. But everyone is under the mind control because it can't be avoided. I was under it 100% for most of my life. Now I like to think that I'm only under it, I'm not sure what percentage, but certainly a lot less than what I was. But all human beings are under it. But once you get a little bit of awareness and you realise it, then you will start to at least see the falsity of the world, and you will start to see some truths, and some might then be able to push their mind into a higher realm, shall we say, to where they can expand and realise that their thought is powerful and can create reality. Even then, you are still not going to create what you fully want, because all the other human beings are not connected to you. They are connected, but they're disconnected in the sense that they're unaware of it, and they are not controlling their thoughts. And because they are being put into a negative state of mind by the real technical controllers of the world, shall we say, their thoughts are mainly going to be subconsciously and even consciously negative, and they're always going to be fighting and arguing. I mean, how many human beings do you see at this present time walking around in a blissful, peaceful state 24/7? You see, that's how it was meant to be, but there's very little of that. It's almost impossible to achieve that, because the system that this world operates on creates chaos, creates stress, creates animosity, creates conflict, and and doesn't even give people time to relax and to even access their mind. They're mainly, even when they're relaxing, they're mainly on the tech world, and that is not conducive to them realizing or thinking or creating anything positive with their mind. And like I say, if you're not aware that those are the basics of what it is to be human anyway, which even I did not realise, say it before I go once more, and then I'll go. Human beings are spiritual beings, in the sense, when I say spiritual beings, that means that they know what is the correct way that they should be. They are mind beings, not meant to be so much in this physicality that they are now in, which is dense and negative and materialistic, and drives them to think that the only way that they can survive is through money and materialism, which is true, because that is the world that has been created by the technical powers that be, so that humans do not know that they could create anything they wanted with their mind. They think they have to go and toil for it and slave for it and work for the system and work for the technical forces that rule this world, because that serves them, not me, not you. We're slaves for it. We're slaves to the system, slave to the system, and that's so obvious. But what I'm saying is that if we can create with our physical thought, our physical thinking, we create the physicality. Our thought, if it is positive, and if it is combined with other human beings that have that same ability, as humans are meant to have that ability, but that has been pushed right down to where we not only don't think we have it, but to where we are creating only at a physical level. and only at a technical level, shall we say. We are not creating with our thinking. We think things up with our thinking, but we think we have to create them with our actual physical hands. I'm saying that all combined, just our thinking can have the world that we want, anything we want. This sounds bizarre and it would not make sense to most people, but it is the truth. The truth has been kept from us. Yeah, you probably say to me, why am I not living in a mansion? Why do I not have all the things I want if I know this? Because I am not connected to all the other human beings, because they are connected to the technical world. If I was connected to them as we naturally are, we could literally create physical things that we want and need. And we could also develop our mind to a much higher level, to where all our abilities are at a high level instead of at a non-level like they are now. You know, I've used the analogy before to be a bit like human beings can fly, but they don't know they can fly, and they wouldn't know how to make themselves fly, and they have no belief in the fact that they can fly, so then they have to invent a physical, technical aeroplane, which works, sure, but wouldn't it be so much easier if you could just fly, just on your own? No aeroplane, no time, no false security stuff. Well, all that's rubbish too, but that's all a false thing too, because all these things that we have are part of the technical system that controls us and the world. They are all unnecessary because we are the creators, but we are creating not for ourselves, we are creating for the technical forces that rule the planet. Whether you want to say that's the top people in the world, the top humans, obviously they're not human the same way that an aware spiritual human being is, that goes without saying. But we put them in those positions, and then we have the world that we've got. That's how it is, you know. And obviously, I think it goes much further, and it would have to, because the technology that is used to suppress us is very, very great. But we also are accepting now, finally now, after a long, long time, they've actually been able to push real technology onto us and make us accept it, so that we are, are limiting that potential that was always there for us to be aware and create for ourselves. But that is now much more taken from us the more we bring the technical world into our life. Because human beings are actually the complete opposite to technology. This is the truth. Human beings are spiritual beings, and technology is the technology of the world. That is the controlling way that this particular earth operates. It is a technical world, but we are spiritual beings in an alien world, you could say, literally, in more ways than one, because whoever or whatever controls the whole earth is technical. We are not technical. We are not meant to be technical. We shouldn't have technical stuff on us, around us, or in our domain. It is not our domain anymore, and has probably not been our domain for a long, long time. You could almost say probably never, if you wanted to, if you're talking about the amount of time that it probably has been, because even our false history and even what we know shows us that we have never really had a world that would be in alignment with our spiritual being or with our thinking. It never has been. You know, most of us are just struggling in our small area, like myself, to try to make it as good as possible. And it's only now I realise, because the dark technical forces have really closed in on me, that I've become more awake and realize that there's no way that any human, real human on this earth, can make that little paradise even in their own little space, because it's just not possible, because it's not, they're not got the ability, because because there's too much technology around them, and that is what controls this earth. And because they are not connected and not combined, knowing that their thinking can create and can counter that, is what I'm saying. Human beings, if they combine their thinking with good thoughts, knowing that they're all connected and no animosity towards any other human being, then combined they could counter the negative technical control and domination and suppression that is in this world and that is on us. But that is the only way, really, that you can defeat the technology that's around you, because it is, we have let it become totally a technical world. And so if you do wake up and say, hey, but I want to be able to fly naturally, shall we say, instead of in an aeroplane, that's just an example. But it could well be a reality, or could have been a reality, maybe, because if you really think, there's not much limit if the human thought can create reality. We have not found out how far that could take us, because instead of developing that, which is what we were put here to do, I believe, instead we've developed the technical world. And actually, we haven't really developed it. It's just been put on us, I believe. It's been given to us, like children playing with a toy. And we've played with it, and it now dominates our world. But it was given to us by bad parents. The controlling forces that control this earth are like bad parents. They're not giving the child a good environment to play in, to develop their natural abilities to where they can be a happy child that is at its full potentially. They give technology so the child is under their control and limited, so that only they remain superior. That's how this world works. So we are controlled by bad parents that want to dominate and control, and they'll keep us, they might keep us alive and safe, but they will not let us be free, and they will not let us surpass them. You see, the master does not want the pupil to ever surpass him. The parent does not want the child to ever be better than what they are. That's how this world is, by the controlling bad parent, master entities, humans, whatever you want to call them. They will come in different forms, maybe. That's what I'm saying, because even at the top we have humans that we give the power to, but they are the ones that give us the life that we have and the technology that we have. That is not there for us to expand. It is there for direction, control, and the world that they want, not the world that we want, or we do not even have a choice. That's the thing, and there's no freedom. You might be safe, but you will not be free, and you will only be safe as long as you're allowed to be safe, because once you give control to technology, that technology can squash you at any point. And believe you me, it will, because I know that, even myself, like the dark forces, and I call them dark forces because that's just a way of putting it, because it's like human beings are spiritual light beings, all awareness, all creativity. Their thought can create whatever they want, but they're all connected, and they're now disconnected. They could easily throw away the technology and reconnect, and probably start afresh and develop that way. That's what I think they should be doing. That's what I think they need to do for survival. For very survival, they need to do that. And that's what I've become aware of. because I was quite happy for my, well, not happy, I was never happy, because there again, you're never allowed to be in a high happy state, not for long anyway, only for very brief periods, because that also, once you, if everyone became really happy on the planet right now, which is never going to happen, it's not possible because the technology keeps everyone down, but if everyone got really happy right this very moment, you know what would also happen? They would also all of a sudden become very aware. In other words, their natural state of knowing everything would come to them. This is this is because human beings are really spiritual beings. They're not physical, technical beings. That's what we've been told. That's what we believe, but it's not true. If we all became really happy at a high level of contentment, happiness, and oneness in just being caring and good that way. I know it sounds airy fairy because I've not been that way, but that automatically raises your awareness and also connects you to other human beings. So that natural internet and that natural awareness and that superior way of being would start to come back to humans, and then they would start to develop their abilities. And heaven only knows where it would take us. But that's what the technical negative forces, I think, know this, and this is why they bring the dark forces down on us. They do not want this to happen because that means then that their whole system is obsolete. They have no more world, and it is their world now and has been for a long time. It would probably become our world then, unless we were, you know, I mean, human beings are very, generally very innocent, very trusting. And this is where we have fallen, because we trust the technology, we trust, we even trust, shall we say, certain other humans even. And these may not be. It's a bit like if you fall in love with someone who really doesn't love you and doesn't even really like you. You've really put yourself in a very vulnerable position, and this is what humans have done. This is what we've all done. This is what I've done all my life, whether it even be in personal relationships. And then that leads to negativity, which brings you down to where you're not aware then of the world and you can't expand as a human being. In fact, you can't even find a happy life as a human being, much less be able to fly, as I say. So, you know, that's the way it is. But anyway, that's it. That's all I'm going to say, because I go on too long, and I even get confused myself, because it's a hard thing to put across, because I've only become aware of it, and that's what it's all about. Once you at least start to see the cracks, the truth, then you will see more cracks and more truth, and then you will start to try to piece it together. You will have to then look for information, and the trouble is that we don't have time for this. This is another thing too. We're very much in this time obsessed world. If human beings had not been put into this system of time control too, clocks, all that sort of thing, we would relax and become more aware too. This is all part of the negative mind-controlled dark system that operates. You know, we're not meant to be following clocks and times and regimented like soldiers and animals. You know, that's not really how we're naturally be, because while we're doing that, we are in the material world and we are focused on that, and so we cannot become aware of what we are and then create what we want. In other words, I'm saying that every human being should be able to have what they want, really, and yet that is not the case, as you know. And the only ones that do get even the material things are those that work for at the top of the system, really. And they are part of the mind control, because every time you turn your music on, that is an influence, and it's a negative influence. You know, none of these things are bringing us up. They're keeping us focused in this mind control system where every human being is under mind control. Some of us more than others, that's all. I'm under mind control still, and believe you me, they try extra hard once you wake up a little bit and start to become aware. Then the mind control And the physical control will really come down on you because they don't want you to expand further, because that doesn't, you got to fit into this system world. If you don't fit in, they don't want you. And eventually they won't want quite a lot of us because the tech, once it takes over too much, as it already is, it means less for humans anyway. And they don't even see that, even at a basic level. And I'm sure we all should see that, because if you're working in a job and a robot takes your job, that's what's happening, Even at a very basic technical level, we can see that, and yet we let it happen. And we think we can't stop it. That's because we have handed over our power to the technical masters that rule this world. When I say technical masters, it could even if you just want to take it as the people that you put there. They are your technical masters. They tell you how you live. They put the internet all over your natural planet and ruin it. I say ruin it because it does ruin it, because the tech does not belong in this natural world. It doesn't belong with humans. It doesn't belong with this earth. It doesn't belong with anything on it. And also, that tech is used to control this natural world. And we think that we control it. We don't. We don't control it at all. The technical masters control every aspect and can control it as much or as little as they want. That is a fact, because the technology behind the scenes is much greater than the little bit that we have in front of us. It's only common sense. It's only common sense that everything that gets invented a long time before we would see it anyway. And we only see it if it suits the masters to give it to us, because it's their world. Why would they give us something when we are just there to keep the system going? You don't give slaves the best of things. You give slaves only the very basics. That's how it has always been. And if you look at the history of the world, you'll see that that's a fact. All the empires that have been down through the centuries, and I've only just looked at this recently, most human beings were slaves, one way or another. Even if you're employed by the king and you're doing well and he's paying you well, you're still a slave. He is the control. It's usually only one person that is controlling huge amounts of people. Obviously, if you're at the top, closer to the top, you think you've got such a good lot that you don't consider yourself a slave. But essentially, every human being on the planet is a slave. And who the real top dog is, that's for humans to find out one day when they get their full awareness. That's what I'm saying. We've got to progress towards that, Anyway, that's it. Good morning, good night, good evening, and a little less tech, a little more thinking, because even I now know I'm one of the lesser ones, and I can see how special human beings were meant to be and really are. But we're not acting or being that way at the moment, where most of the humans even I see around me, they're so mind and tech controlled to such an extent, and they think that is advancement, that they have no idea. This is unfortunate, and I don't blame them, because it's happened to me, and like I say, I wasn't even tech, and I was more mind controlled than them. So if they threw that away, they'd probably snap out of it in 2 seconds, because I was not that way. But the technical world is there to direct us. Instead, we should be directing ourselves, because if we are the creators, why would we need to be directed by mechanics or technical stuff? That is the falsity of it all, isn't it, really? Why do I need technology to create if the human being is really the creator? If human thought really creates physical reality, and we're all connected, why would we need any technology at all? And if we did need it, we would know to pick natural technology, wouldn't we? Whereas because we're not aware, we're picking artificial technology that is alien and detrimental to the human body and mind. You see, that's because we're not aware. And if we even looked into it, we'd realise that even if we just looked at it at a practical, so-called scientific level, we shouldn't even need that, because when you're aware, you don't need science, because you just know. Because you know that the true science comes from you. Because you know that all the rest is limited. Technology is limited in comparison with what human beings actually should know. You know, on the basis of those things. You know, if we are the creators, then why are we letting technology create for us? Why are we letting technology telling us what to do? You know, technology is using our creativity against us. We are creating, but we are creating for technology. We are creating our own prison. We're creating a world, a technical world that is against ourselves. We're creating, and this is all part of the deception, because it's just natural if you think about it, but that doesn't make any sense. And we do not know what the real world is. See, it's a bit like if you go to prison, right? You know you're in prison, but you know there's a bigger world outside the prison, right? That's what this world is like. It's a prison. The whole world is a prison. When you go to prison, you're in a little prison. But in reality, everyone on this planet is a slave and is in the prison, because they are not aware that their mind can create the physical reality. So naturally, they're in a prison mind, really. It's mind control, and then the humans themselves are being used to create their own prison. You know, because if you're not aware that you've got abilities, but someone else is aware you've got abilities, then that superior other technical being is using your natural abilities to create what they want. They're utilising your talents and your abilities to create what they want, not what you want, because you don't know you've got those abilities. You see what I'm trying to say? To be a bit like, I can't use an example, but it's like if humans don't know that they're the real creators of the physical world just with their thought, but the masters of the world do, shall we say, or master of the world, I mean, probably you'd have to go right up to, you know, all these things. It's like the further up you go it's all about it's all about hierarchy, and that's another thing that has been created, part of the system, hierarchies. That should not exist in the natural human realm, because all human beings are capable of creating a physical reality with their thought, and they're all connected. So why would there be a hierarchy? Anyone can have what they want. They're all connected, so none is better than the other. They're all different, but they can create by their differences together. You know, even I don't fully understand it, because, like I say, I'm not in the position to make it operate myself. I know it's true. I know it exists, and I see it a little bit. You have to see a little bit of proof to realise it's true, but you still know that there's no way that I can operate it at anywhere full capacity. I cannot even hardly fight back the negative forces that are on me, just at a purely individual level, because you're talking about advanced technology, you're talking about most of the planet being against you, because if all the planet is under mind control and most are working for the system and the system is trying to control them, then figure it out yourself. It's you're lucky if you're still breathing even, and actually you in a funny kind of way you kind of see, I think that we are meant to be here and live out this existence and try to do something with this world, right? But we can't do anything because it's not our world, because we are not controlling it. We can't create that wonderful planet that we're supposed to have because we're controlled by the technology and the forces that see us as just servants, shall we say. You know, like we're like cattle. The way we treat cattle and animals on the planet is how we are treated by the higher forces. You know, they think they're superior, even though they know that we are creating the reality for them. But they've got the power, you see. Doesn't mean that they're necessarily better. They don't create, but they know how to manipulate us to create for them. They manipulate our mind because they don't create the physical reality with their thinking. They're technical beings, you see. They're technical. The world, and they've now made the world like they wanted. You know, whether you wanted, even if you wanted to just say, well, they're very non-human human beings who have secured vast technology behind the scenes to control us, even if you want to do that, because obviously that is the case at a lower level. I think at a lower level, because I think the technology, you know, if most of the things that I now believe to be true are going on like behind the scenes, well then that means very advanced technology, and that has to come from something probably outside this actual physical earth, because I don't think human beings have not created it and would not create it because they do not want or need technology. They can create with their thinking, as I've said, so they have no need of it. That is a different type of race that needs and likes technology because they can't create with their own thinking. So they have to create and use technology, and they have pushed that onto us to make us into technical beings like them, so that then we are lesser and they can rule and be the kings, shall we say, of this earth, and make sure that we are here and serve them, shall we say, really, because you see, you're serving that kind of God entity then, aren't you? You know, whether, you know, and when I say a God entity, as I said before, that's just a term. That really means someone or something that has all the power, all the control, and that you give your power and your creativity over to, because I believe that this is what I have learned, is that we are the creators, but we have given that over to the technical controlling God entity, whatever term you want to use, that has dominion over our domain, or the domain that we exist in. Okay. Good night, good day, and good luck to everyone. And I would like it if you all started to think positive and not have any animosity or any hatred or any dislike of any human being on the planet. If we, as individuals, we all started to do that, I believe that we could mentally elevate ourselves to where everyone would become aware. There are other ways of becoming aware, but this is the easiest, and this is the way, without having to search for information, without having to throw away everything you know, because most people cannot do that. I know I couldn't have done it. And the rest, and if you're just hoping to accidentally become aware like me, well, that's a very small hope. So really, the only way is for everyone to, yes, start to not have any bad thoughts about anyone and not act on any bad thoughts on anyone. If we could all do that, I really, from the information I now know, that would change everything, and we would all become aware. So then we would know what is the best for us automatically, and we wouldn't have any more questions, and we would know what was false and what was real and what was true. We'd know the difference straight away. We'd start to see it in everyday life, and then eventually, at some point, we would acknowledge that we create and that we're connected. And once that happens, we could pretty much have anything we want. The other way is the technical way, where you give yourself over to something that is controlled by another force which you don't even know of. You know you don't really control your technology. Everyone knows that, really. So that's really trusting in something unknown instead of trusting in yourself and in the truth.